So you're kind of a hype man.
Exactly. I think that's the mistake that a lot of ring announcers make. Because when I first started doing it, I researched the absolute hell out of it.
Yeah.
You know, I follow a lot of other ring announcers all across the country because there's promotions that are Sparta level, lower than Sparta, higher than Sparta,
right?
All the way up to obviously UFC and the big promotions. And so I follow all those ring announcers and I watch their style and I see what they try to do and what they try to emulate. And the one thing that makes Bruce Buffer different than all of them is he makes the event feel like a spectacle.
Absolutely.
And that is something that I think is missed and what I try to do in the sense that I have full control over the reaction of a crowd. If we're in the mid card and we just finished fight 5 of 13, there's a lull.
Right.
So it's my job as the person with the microphone that has influence over the crowd to say something to hype them up, to change my energy, to change my cadence. So that is what I love doing. So I say things that I know the crowd will react to.
This is the Prize Fighting Business. I'm your host, Muay Dan, and today my interview guest is the in-ring announcer for both the Sparta Combat League and Airtight Boxing, Big Mo on the mic, Kody Mommaerts. Big Mo sat down with me to have a conversation about how he got started in ring announcing, how he's developed his skills over time, and his journey up to this point. Now let's dive back into my conversation with Big Mo on the mic, Kody Mommaerts. So today my guest is Kody Mommaerts, and your ring name or your announcer name is Big Mo on the mic. You're an announcer for both the Sparta Combat League and Airtight Boxing.
Yes,
right
on.
Cool. And how'd you get that nickname, Big Mo on the mic?
So Mo obviously is the first part of my last name. No one ever knew how to pronounce my name growing up, and so my high school football coach started calling me Mo, and then it kind of transitioned into Big Mo. My dad, I guess, had Mo as his fraternity nickname, so it was kind of this weird thing that happened organically, but I kept the name. And, you know, my thing is when I started doing this kind of media stuff, I wanted something that I could brand.
Yep.
And my last name, while I love my last name, it's not, it's not sexy. You can't brand it in any way, so I chose to cut it. Big Mo on the mic, I just made as my Instagram handle, but I go by Big Mo for everything. That's how I introduce myself to the crowd when I announce and that kind of stuff. So I
like it. I think it's a good nickname, and it's fitting. You are a big guy.
A little bit.
6'6", 6'7", or so.
6'7", yeah.
Damn, nice.
So.
So you're coming off of a performance or where you were the announcer at Airtight Boxing this past Friday, August 24th or so. So what is that like for you? I mean, how is that experience on Airtight Boxing, and what does a normal night look like for you?
So, first part of the question with Airtight Boxing. Airtight Boxing is with Steve Messis in Denver. House of Pain is his gym. And I got connected with him because he was doing some co-promotions with Sparta, where Sparta kind of handled the production of everything and that sort of stuff. They did Summer Heat, and they did a couple other promotions. But then he this was his first one that he did on his own promotion. He's been promoting for 20, 25, 30 years. So he's done a lot before, but this is his most recent one that was kind of his own thing. And me and him get along great. And, it's funny because I just got off on a tangent.
No, you're fine. So you were introduced by the Sparta guy, by Jeff Cicernos, and you're able to become the announcer at Airtight. How often are there Airtight cards?
So this was just the first pure Airtight card where it was just their own thing that I've ever done.
Because in the past, I thought I saw one where they co-promoted with Sparta, like you said, pretty recently.
Yes, exactly. They did their co-promotions with Sparta, where Sparta kind of handled the production of everything, and Steve and Airtight obviously handled the booking and the promotion side of it and the matchups. So, but no, I mean, in terms of preparation, my preparation is the same regardless of what I'm calling, regardless of if it's boxing, MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai. Typically, what I do is early in the week, I get all the fighters' names. I make my cards. The cards are kind of my lifeline with everything. There's something I can refer to.
And these are like index cards you're creating?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So if you ever watch, for those of you that are watching this interview that don't, have always watched Bruce Buffer or Michael Buffer or Jimmy Lennon Jr. on whatever, they have a card, which is basically their script. And on that card, they have any of the key spots that they need to list. They have the flow of information. Obviously, when Bruce Buffer does it, he goes into great detail of the fighter, what kind of fighter style they are, what their record is. With these smaller promotions, I don't go as much depth with that.
Sure.
I typically say where they're from, what gym they represent. That's a big one that I think a lot of people miss.
Yeah.
Because the gyms that they represent occupy a big part of the crowd.
Absolutely.
Because people follow gyms, people are loyal to their gyms. And so my thing is I'm going to say what I want to say is based off of what I know the crowd will react to.
Okay.
So my job is to direct how I want the crowd to react.
So you're kind of a hype man.
Exactly. I think that's the mistake that a lot of ring announcers make. Because
Sure.
when I first started doing it, I researched the absolute hell out of it.
Yeah.
You know, I follow a lot of other ring announcers all across the country because there's promotions that are Sparta level, lower than Sparta, higher than Sparta,
Right.
all the way up to obviously UFC and the big promotions. And so I follow all those ring announcers and I watch their style and I see what they try to do and what they try to emulate. And the one thing that makes Bruce Buffer different than all of them is he makes the event feel like a spectacle.
Absolutely.
And that is something that I think is missed and what I try to do in the
Cool.
sense that I have full control over the reaction of a crowd. If we're in the mid card and we just finished fight 5 of 13,
Yeah.
there's a lull.
Right.
So it's my job as the person with the microphone that has influence over the crowd to say something to hype them up, to change my energy, to change my cadence. So that is what I love doing. So
Cool.
I say things that I know the crowd will react to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so back to the cards, and then so obviously I get into the name. The nickname is really important for me.
Okay.
Pronunciation is something that I actually really practice with.
So how do you find out? Do you like reach out to the fighter? Or
So a couple ways. For the most part, I'm pretty good pronouncing names. You know, I've earned a lot of the respect of the Hispanic fighters in Colorado because I'm semi-bilingual with Spanish, and so I'm good with pronouncing their names,
Cool.
how it needs to be pronounced, and
that is a good skill to have in fighting.
Exactly. So that's kind of cool. No, I mean I sometimes Google them, watch how previous
Okay.
announcers did it. I also pronounce it how it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And so, but I'll also go into the locker room also before the fight while they're getting taped up and say, hey, how do you pronounce this? Or
So what happens if you're practicing all week a certain way and then they tell you the day of, hey, you've actually got that completely wrong?
I'm pretty decent at improvising, so I can, you know, if it's one or two things, I can fix it over. And, you know, usually, I got involved with this whole thing, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, but I did a lot of public speaking in the past. And so, and I love presenting, both if it was for business or if it was for some sort of event. And I never liked having notes. I never was a note guy. I'd rather memorize everything.
Yeah.
Now, with a fight, I can't do that
Okay.
because fight cards change. You know, fighters get swapped out maybe if they're, you know, a multitude of things can happen. So having something that I can refer to is important. And also from the basis of sponsorships also and that sort of thing. But
So a week out, when you're starting to do this preparation and you're looking up the fighters' names, how they're pronounced, the sponsors and such, when you're practicing, if you're practicing, I guess if you're trying to memorize it, are you going through the whole gig, what you'd be doing from moment to moment?
So I know, I'm trying to think how to answer that, how to put this into words right.
Yeah.
But I know what I'm going to say at certain points.
Okay.
You know, how I introduce the main event is the same always.
So you have an outline.
I do. And so I know how I'm going to start the show, how I'm going to end the show. Everything in the middle, I have to sprinkle in with sponsors, certain events that are going on. Hey, they're doing 2-for-1 drink specials. Whatever the promotion is doing, I want to kind of sprinkle in throughout the show. But I know how I'm going to open, how I'm going to close, and that's done through, I mean, when I'm driving to work or when I'm driving to the fight, I probably look like a crazy person, anyone next to me, but I am doing it as if I am, you know, presenting, and that's crucially important to me. And being someone that likes to get after it and really get energized and have that bravado and everything, I probably freak some people out on the road. But.
So you're kind of like a mixture of Bruce Buffer and John Anik. I mean, John Anik being that you're doing like like you said, the 2-for-1 drink specials, go check it out. You're doing the other promotions outside of this current fight, hyping them all up, but then you're also doing the announcing.
Right. So, it was interesting when I was trying to. So the first event I ever did in terms of announcing, I really was trying to go for it. When Bruce Buffer announces, he is literally losing his mind.
Jumps up in the air.
Exactly. And so I did that. I was probably a little over the top. It sounded like crap on audio. And so I eventually had to get my pitch right and get my cadence right and develop my own kind of sound. But when I was researching announcers, whether it was Bruce Buffer, Michael Buffer, Jimmy Lennon, trying to think of some of the other ones, the guy that does it for Glory, I forgot his name.
Oh, yeah, he's good.
But, I tried to take bits and pieces from all of them and kind of make it into my own thing. And so that's ultimately where I got it from. And the other thing, too, in terms of talking about, 2-for-1 drink special or talking about whatever it is, if I can connect to the audience in a certain way, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
For example, like calling a spade, I need to know my audience. So when I go to a fight, most of them are adults, most of them are drinking. So when I'm getting people hyped up for the main event, I tell them to stand up, get out of their seats, raise those drinks high, and then I get in my catchphrase. But ultimately, knowing your crowd is vitally important to the success as an announcer, for sure.
Well, and I think that comes from your public speaking ability, your at least recognition and knowledge of that, knowing your audience is,
Exactly.
Public speaking 101. So
Precisely.
you've got that good background for it. That's good.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I guess walk me through what it would look like the night of. So you spent this week preparing, you kind of practiced the names, you've got this general structured outline in your head. You can kind of understand where you are in space within that structure. The night of the fight, when you get there, are you going and introducing yourself to the fighters, make sure you got the name? Like, what does it look like from the moment you get to the arena through the end of the night?
So before the arena, I got to get dappered up.
That's right.
I take pride in how I dress. I like to dress.
You look sharp.
I like to dress flashy. I like to look sharp. I like to make it. Again, it all comes down to that when the fights start, there are 4 people in the ring. There are the 2 fighters, the referee, and myself.
Yeah.
It is our job to make it a spectacle. Now, the referee's going to do his thing. The fighters are going to do their thing. So my job is to make sure the audience understands that they are seeing something special.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to come to work in a t-shirt. I'm not going to come to work in jeans. I'm going to come to work as if what they are seeing is phenomenal. And they are. That is the one thing that I think combat sports has over other sports is it is one-on-one. No other sport is like that. Granted, there's wrestling, but in terms of sports that are actually viewed and, people buy pay-per-views, wrestling ain't even up there. But that is the difference. And the energy needs to match what is being done in the ring. And these are phenomenal athletes that are trying to kill each other, basically. All right, so let's make it seem like 2 gladiators are going to war.
I love it.
So it all starts with how I dress. And then as I go through... Again, I'm practicing in the car as I'm going there.
Yeah.
Warm my voice up. Cough drops are my lifeline.
Yeah.
I'm having those before, during, after the event, drinking lots of water.
Just so your voice lasts.
Exactly. That's something that a lot of people don't realize is that you are yelling and screaming, not even yelling and screaming, just talking loudly into a microphone for 3-4 hours, you start to burn out. So that's important. Yeah. I get to the arena, immediately being cool production. We're connected throughout the event. They're giving me cues.
Are they in your ear? Or?
No, so I don't do it in my ear. I probably could. I'm not saying we just don't. Yeah. And so, but making sure I'm on the same page with production, making sure that I'm on the same page with whoever's heading the promotion. Okay, what do you want the flow tonight?
Okay.
Do you have any special messages? Sometimes they have someone special sing the national anthem. Sometimes they have someone, some special sponsor, some special presentation. So I need to know about those things so I can really sometimes figure out.
So you're kind of the quarterback. To a certain extent, the flow is around you. There's people pulling the strings and, maybe a coach, but you're the guy that's...
I'm the guy with the microphone, and I'm the guy that people are listening to.
Yeah.
So I can't get up there and say, coming up next, I think, is so-and-so. No, I need to come up there whether or not in my mind, if I have it all together, I need to present it as if I do.
Absolutely.
So
cool. So you get there, you're lining up with production, you're making sure you guys are in tune. Is this a back and forth? Are you going into the ring, you do the first introduction, and then you're going back to production saying, hey, well, you know, like, what do we do next? Or that's an initial meeting at the beginning and we're set for the night?
For the most part, we're set. You
Cool.
know, if there's a couple things that I want to iron out, I might go back to the production trailer while the fight's going on or something like that. But for the most part, I know the flow of how everything needs to happen. And that's the nice thing about working for promotions like Sparta and Airtight is they've done it enough.
Yeah.
And they know what they're doing to where they can iron everything out.
Yeah.
To where very little, at least on my side, can phase them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they deal with their own production problems, and that's not associated with me, but I can go to them and, hey, how do you want to do this? They have an answer, or at least they can talk to someone who has the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice. Are you doing post-fight interviews?
I've done it. You know, usually for Sparta, Bailey Winters does it.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I did do it one night because she was fighting, so I had to take over, and that's always fun.
But you're not doing them in the ring then? It's more...
for Airtight, I actually did them in the ring.
Okay.
But for Sparta, no. They do it off camera because they have to do it with their production, their pay-per-view, and that kind of stuff. So
cool. So essentially, once you've got the direction from the production team, it's all you. You're going. You're performing time. So
100 miles an hour. Yeah.
Cool. So what happens? You get up there. You announce the first fight. You do all the sponsors. You get the crowd hyped. You encourage them to go drink beer, and you've got the fight announced. You say go. They go. First fight's over. Or actually, you just say, you know, go ahead. They start. What are you doing there? Are you going and sitting down?
So I sit down and watch the fight. I'm
Cool.
given one of the best seats in the house. I love that.
Right.
You know, that's partially what got me hooked the first time is, you know, my first paycheck had blood splattered all over it and that kind of stuff.
Cool,
and that was awesome. But no, I get to sit there and watch professionals do what they do, and I find I'm fascinated by fighting and combat sports, so I love to be able to watch on that scale.
So you're a fan too?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan, and I'm close enough to the corners where I can hear what the coaches are saying.
Yeah,
and so now I'm starting to
cool.
learn more about the sport and actually learn the technical side of it, even though I'm not an actual fighter.
Very
Maybe
cool.
I'll try it, but you know, for now I'm not. And so that's awesome for me. And you know, then when the fight's over, I go over to the commission table because they have all their judges, and those people are also very educated. The Colorado Combative Sports Commission or Association, I think. And so they understand how I need to say things. And so, you know, every now and then I get a curveball thrown at me, you know, where I need to say it differently. You know, typically any post-fight is pretty simple.
Okay.
Referee so-and-so calls stop to this contest at so-and-so time, declaring your winner by unanimous, or declaring your winner by knockout so-and-so, declaring your winner by TKO so-and-so, declaring your winner by submission so-and-so. If it comes to a decision, I list the judges' names, judge so-and-so scored at blank by blank, and then I go through that, declaring your winner by unanimous decision, split decision. But occasionally I get a curveball. Like I had a fight that ended in a draw. So I need to quickly figure out how to say that. And I'll ask them, I go, so how is this typically announced? Because these people have been doing scoring for 20, 30 years. They've heard a plethora of different people say it a certain way. So they kind of let me know. So.
Use your resources. That's good.
Exactly.
Your business partners.
Exactly.
What, can you remember the hardest name you've ever had to pronounce?
Oh,
Would you be able to pronounce it right now?
I know there's one. Let me think. I'm not sure. I mean, some of the Spanish names I do for Airtight are tricky, but I always do them well.
The Brazilian ones can get tough.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not. I have to give it some thought. But no, and then that's the other thing too that I practice beforehand is with names, right? I could get up there and I could do it how a lot of announcers do it, where they go, and now fighting out of the red corner, John Smith.
Right.
Blank. That's not how I roll.
Yeah.
So I need to find places in either their first name, nickname, or last name where I can scale up the level, scale up the volume. And that's tough. And, you know, Bruce Buffer said, too, in an interview that the one-syllable names are the tough ones because that's harder to figure out how you want to say it. You know, names like...
John Stone.
Yeah. So I'd have to, you know, as I'm rehearsing or as I'm walking to the ring, I go, hey, John. You know, so I'm kind of rehearsing in my mind sort of thing.
All right. I like that. Cool. So you've got these fighters' names in your head. You announce them throughout the night. Is that the primary duty? I mean, are you essentially reading them off, sitting down, watching the fights, going back and reading the decision, and that's like what you have to focus on, or are there other things going on during that?
It's funny you say that because I tell people that the biggest misconception is that my job is to read names.
Sure.
That's what a lot of announcers think their job is, to read names. No. My job is to control the flow of an event. So reading names is kind of what I do. On the technical side, yeah, I read names, but it goes deeper than that. So yes, as a fight is going through, I am paying attention to the fight, especially if I'm doing interviews. I obviously want to pay attention to the fight, but even if I'm not, I'm still watching. Obviously, I want to see what happens. One thing I do is that I want to build suspense. So if it's a split decision, I'm going slow.
Cool.
Scores it Smith. Scores it Johnson. So-and-so scores it, declaring your winner by split decision. Pause, because now the crowd's like, come on, tell me, and then I'll announce it. So there's certain games that I can play to kind of to hype everything up, and that's what I love doing.
I love it. So you mentioned you're a fan of the sport, MMA and boxing. Do you have a favorite that you enjoy watching? Like, is a certain event more fun for you than others? Or
I prefer watching MMA for sure. I love watching boxing, but I think that everything about MMA, there's more stuff going on.
Right.
No, don't get me wrong. I enjoy boxing, but MMA is probably my preference for sure.
It's a little more dynamic.
Yeah, and there's more stuff that can happen, and
right.
So yeah, I'd say MMA, but I'm a huge fan for sure. I've been obsessed with how the UFC has grown, and I mean this. The story goes Dana White and the Fertitta brothers bought it for $2 million. Now it's worth $6 billion.
Right.
And so it's been amazing watching how they've done that.
Yeah. How do you think they've done it?
Well, the big thing is they understand that they need to put the fights together that people want to see. And they know how to build a fight. The entertainment side of combat sports is missed by 95% of promotions.
Sure. It's hard.
And it's incredibly hard.
Yeah.
But I think what also Dana White is good at is recognizing when he has superstars.
Yes.
In the sense that this is someone that either a crowd will unanimously love or will unanimously hate. But regardless, he can build a fight.
Yeah. I'm
a huge Conor McGregor fan. He changed the sport immensely. He made UFC a prize fighting and a money sport. Before It wasn't. Yeah. He made it that. And he did it by, is he a great fighter? Of course. But he did it because he can sell a fight.
Yep.
I believe 6 of the 7 highest grossing pay-per-views are McGregor pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Is it because he's a good fighter? Probably not. I mean, he's a great fighter, but it's because his press conferences are always dynamic. His trash talking is incredible.
Right.
I mean, there's that. I think is where the UFC has killed it, is the entertainment side of it all.
Yeah.
It feels like a spectacle.
Yeah.
I've said that word a lot throughout this, but they know how to make it feel like I'm watching 2 gladiators.
Absolutely.
And what I'm watching is a big deal.
Yeah.
And boxing does that too.
Sure.
Boxing has kind of gone through this weird ebb and flow in history and again, it was dependent on superstars.
Yeah.
The kind of the lull period for boxing was because they didn't have big guys doing it. They didn't have
no big American heavyweight.
Yeah, they didn't have the superstar power. And now it's starting to come back a little bit, and I'm excited for boxing because it's starting to get there. But no, the UFC has absolutely killed it with what they've been doing. And
you're speaking to even pre-ESPN days, but I've noticed, I think their partnership with ESPN, not only the UFCs, but PFLs, the Professional Fighter Leagues, you can tell since their partnership with ESPN, their production's just gotten even better. They've got a little bit more deep dive on the fighters in between the fights and pre-fight. They've got even their commercials are a little bit more engaging.
Exactly.
It's just they've got a little bit higher tier production even than the UFC had before, when the UFC was the preeminent promotion in around.
Well, before the UFC was viewed as this thing where 2 people would just go in and beat the hell out of each other.
A fringe sport at best.
Yeah, and people didn't look at it for it being a sport. they knew it was sport. They didn't view it as such. You know,
Yeah.
they never would put UFC up there with football and basketball, even though it takes the same, if not more, amount of preparation, athleticism, expertise, etc. And now that's starting to change.
And
now,
kudos to Dana White for that.
Kudos to Dana White, and kudos to the people that kind of changed the sport. You know, I've been asked before, who's your Mount Rushmore of UFC? And I go, okay, well, you mean in terms of talent or in terms of what they did for the business?
Right.
Two completely different mountains.
Absolutely.
You know, my typical answer is my Mount Rushmore of talented fighters: John Jones, George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, and then you could probably throw in like a Daniel Cormier in that mix or some people like that. Most influential: Anderson Silva, Conor McGregor. I mean, probably do Royce Gracie. He was one of the first big ones. And I probably have to think about the last one. But the fighters that brought something different to the table is what kind of – the UFC has gone through these scaled evolutions, right?
Yep.
And every time they evolved is because they had one guy that they built around. You know,
Yeah.
Anderson Silva, 12 straight title defenses. He was the best in the world. Okay, cool. Then you had people like Ronda Rousey.
Yep.
Changed the sport. She was a phenomenon. She was a main eventer. As a woman, no one would have ever expected that.
Yeah.
And she drew huge sales. And then you had McGregor, skyrocketed. And so now I think the UFC's kind of, they might see that McGregor's might be on his way out, or maybe, you know, he's slowing down. So they're probably looking for that next superstar that they can bill as the guy.
And I think you're touching on a really interesting difference there, too, between someone that's maybe a superstar fighter but not a superstar salesman. Like, you know, this last card is probably the biggest one of the year with Cormier and Stipe. Even as the main event, they end up being kind of co-main event as far as promotion.
Exactly.
You know, Nate Diaz and Anthony Pettis get the most promotion. And the thought is, well, Dana and the UFC didn't realize how big of a star Nate is. Like, yeah, he's a big star, but he's not doing the promotion to sell the fights. You're forcing that promotion at him. So, yeah, he sells a lot of fights, but it doesn't touch McGregor. I mean, McGregor's just ability to go out there and do more and willingness. I mean, he talked about it to a certain extent how, I can't remember which fight it was, but it like drained him doing, I think maybe against Aldo, doing the 4 like across the world tour.
Yeah, that was the Mayweather fight, and he sold out press conferences in arenas.
Yeah.
Like, people paid to sit. He filled the Staples Center, a full-size NBA basketball arena, for people to watch people talk for 30 minutes.
Right.
That's how dynamic that event was. Amazingly done by both sides.
So Nate Diaz is a star, but McGregor's a superstar, and the UFC, you know, makes money off Diaz-type fights, but they really make their living.
Exactly.
You know, they make their valuation, improve their valuation from the McGregors, the Rouseys, the Anderson Silvas, Jose Aldos. Maybe not Jose Aldo. He's not quite up in that tier. He's a lighter guy, but he brought Brazil. Yeah. You know, a lot of Brazilian fans to the UFC.
Exactly, and I think that, you know, the entertainment side needs to be, and UFC is doing it. They're putting it at the top, and it's vitally important. And so, I mean, I love watching Dana at these press conferences when people are jacking at each other. He's just standing there laughing like, this is fantastic.
Money signs in his eyes.
Well, this is what it needs to be.
Yeah,
you know, no one wants
entertaining.
You know, I mean, the UFC put out a video a couple months ago talking about the importance of rivalry in sports, the importance of rivalry in the UFC. And it was like about 20 minutes long. And all these fighters were talking about how the rivalry fights, the ones that were built, the ones that were intense, the ones that, you know, a guy shoved the guy in a press conference. I mean, did 3 times the buys is something that might have just had great fighters in it. Right. You know, you had Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell. Yep. Drew every single time. You had people like Brock Lesnar that made everything a rivalry. Yep. McGregor, obviously. Chael Sonnen. All of those fights drew because there was an emotion. Nate Diaz. Yeah. There's an emotion behind it.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that with this last promotion, them interviewing Duke Rufus, talking about how Nate brought the hood out of Anthony Pettis, and that we're going to see this. You know, he had me convinced I was going to see this Anthony Pettis that all of a sudden had cardio and could brawl with people.
And is it real? Maybe.
Yeah, it
doesn't matter to me. I'm still liking what I'm seeing here, you know?
I'm buying it.
Exactly. And so that is something that I think a lot of the smaller promotions would need to try to do.
Yeah.
they need to. It's easier said than done.
Absolutely.
But if they can find a guy that they can brand, and that they can build around, they got it.
Yeah.
I mean, I always get back to McGregor because he was so dynamic with how he did this. But the first promotion that he fought for before the UFC, it was in Europe. I don't even remember what it was called. But
Cage Warriors.
Was it Cage?
Yeah, he's a double champ.
Look how much promotion they have gotten because of him.
I mean, he might be the reason they're on Fight Pass now.
Exactly. And so, again, it's easier said than done to find. Obviously, they struck gold with that one.
Yeah.
But if I'm a promoter, I'm doing everything in my power to make a fight seem. I don't care if it's a regional fight in the middle of BFE nowhere. Bill it to where you get community around it. You get people that want to buy and go watch what you are putting on.
I guess the challenge that I always wonder about is how do you hype it up? How do you hype up every fight? Like if you're saying that this fight is the one that you can't miss, then why is the next one the one that I can't miss?
True.
It just, I don't know. I think about it sometimes from a promoter's perspective, and I almost don't envy them because I'm like, man, how do you get people interested every time?
That's a good point. I agree with that. And again, putting two great fighters together will get you part of the way there.
Yeah.
Great matchmaking is a skill.
Yeah.
That's something that Steve is great with Airtight.
Yeah.
But again, it's taking that and going further and pushing it and going with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's interesting. But you mentioned the one thing I wanted to bring back up is you mentioned how you had blood on your first paycheck.
Oh, yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about like kind of the financials of this. I mean, I assume you have to have a day job. How often are these cards? Do you get paid for every one? Did you get paid originally? Like, what does the financial side of this look like?
So I work for a startup tech company, my full-time job. So I got involved with this because I've been doing some public speaking here and there, and I was hosting different events, and I'd gotten in touch with Jeff, and he was looking for a media personality. He was specifically looking for someone on commentary, and he wanted someone that brought the energy.
Yeah.
And so he told me to come down, and I came down to the Eclipse Event Center. It was actually for the last fight that Grant Neal did for Sparta,
cool.
Where he beat the guy in like a minute or something like that. It was insane. But I go down, and I'm talking with him and, kind of tell him where I think I can fit in and stuff like that. And he goes, well, do you want to call the first half of the card? Yeah. I had no preparation, didn't know anything about the fights. So I went in purely and called the fight as if I was a fan.
Wow.
Now, luckily, I know enough about the sport now to where I can actually sound like an authority. And I do think I know more than a lot of people do, and I probably know a lot more than people think I would. And so I was able to call it from a technical side, but my job when I was commentating was my partner in the booth is J.R. Gordon, and he's he's like an encyclopedia of knowledge. So he is doing the play-by-play, talking about it, analyzing it. My job is, go nuts. Again, it's the same concept. While a ring announcer is trying to build a fight as a big spectacle live, the commentator's job is to do the same thing for the people that are watching on pay-per-view. Yeah. So I would go nuts. Someone got knocked out, I would absolutely lose my marbles on the mic. I don't know if I can curse here, but and I would go crazy. And so I loved doing commentary, and then it quickly evolved into being a ring announcer. But the financial side, I mean, I like getting paid to do it.
Yeah.
The media, doing this kind of this public stuff in the eye of the public, I've always been comfortable with. I've always been very comfortable on camera.
And that's what you've done in your job. Like you mentioned, you worked for a startup, and before the show, you were talking to me about how you got practice. You enjoy public speaking in general, so you had this foundation of being able to speak publicly. So you almost parlayed this experience into saying, hey, I do deserve to get paid for announcing as well.
I knew when the idea had come about, I said, well, I knew I'd be good at it because I've had the practice. So my thought is that if you have a skill, regardless of what your skill is, figure out a way to monetize it. We live in a world where you can monetize anything. If you have a skill, apply it somehow.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a side job right now.
Right.
I want it to scale up into something else, but the financial side's important for me. Obviously I like to get paid doing what I do. And so,
it's cool getting paid to do what you like to do as well.
Exactly.
That's neat.
And so, the ultimate goal is eventually, at least on the announcing side, I'd love to announce a UFC card.
Cool.
And, I maintained the confidence in my own abilities to where I say that I'd kill it. I would dominate it. And you could throw me in out of the frying pan into the fire, and I know I would do a good job.
Bruce Buffer's getting older.
Yeah. Hey, man. Dana White, UFC, hit me up. I'll call the undercard just to show you what I got. But
do you know the guy's name that does the Brazil cards where he goes from Spanish to English?
Oh, I know. He has the long dreadlocks.
It's pretty. It's interesting.
I'm not sure.
Interesting hearing him do that. So you do get paid for it, but I mean, did you always did you go into this knowing, hey, I'm not going to do this if I don't get paid, or was it something where you were willing to because you wanted that experience?
In the beginning, I was willing to do it for free.
Yeah.
Because I needed to prove myself.
Yeah.
I understood that I had to prove myself to them that I was good enough to get paid.
Good.
And I didn't understand the scope of what the local promotions are.
Sure.
Because you see UFC Showtime Boxing up here, right? And then the local promotions you would never consider being anything near it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they get a lot of people at these events. They make a lot of money off of them. There's pay-per-view. There's massive production and distribution. And so it's a lot bigger than people recognize. And so, yeah.
Well, Sparta especially. They do a good job of it.
They do a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, getting paid that's a part of it for sure.
Cool.
So,
yeah, I mean, it's your job.
Hey, the prize fighting business, man.
That's right.
So.
Well, I mean, that's a big reason of why you're on the show. It is you painted it beautifully, or you described it beautifully when you said there's 4 people in the ring. You're one of them. Yep. I mean, that's an incredible perspective that you have, and you've spoken to it. I mean, it is a very different perspective than fighters are coming in and talking about. You see the promotion side of it. You see the production side of it. You understand the importance of you putting on a show. Fighters sometimes think, put on a show. Other times they think just get the win. But for you, I mean, your performance is the show. Your show is the performance. That's what you're there for.
Well, I might have said it earlier, but when you look at the success, both in terms of money and size of an event, I truthfully think that while what the fighters are doing is incredible, in terms of how the fight is built, leading up to it is what's vital, because that's what gets people to buy the tickets for it. That's what gets people there at the arena, because they don't know how the fight's going to turn out, but it's been built in a way that they know what they're going to go see.
Hopefully they don't know how the fight's going to turn out. Hopefully they have a strong feeling, but they don't really know.
Exactly. And so all of that lead up, all of that marketing, all of that production, all of them shutting the lights down, you hitting music playing, and it's intense, and there's a camera on the guy, and it's on the Jumbotron, and people are going freaking crazy. I mean, that is something that it's nuts, and people that haven't been to a fight, I don't care what level it is a crazy energy.
Oh, I love it.
It's because it's not basketball.
No.
It's not football. It is watching 2 people fight one-on-one, trying to kill the other person for all practical purposes. It's intense. It's bloody. It's wild. People are going crazy. It's 2 sides of an audience that are locked into the cage, no pun intended, locked in, but they're focusing on this and watching 2 people do what they're great at, and there's typically 2 sides to an audience. One side's rooting for this person, one's for this person. So now you have the struggle of the balance of the crowd.
And there's a loser. And I think one thing that gets lost on TV or not going in person is the emotion. I mean, when you're in person, especially at a regional card, you feel the emotion of these guys, the tension there. And when they lose, someone does have to lose, and that's tough for anybody.
Well, I played sport at a competitive level. I played college football, and so I experienced the grind of preparing for something. And while I'm not discrediting any other sport, the training camp for a fighter is unlike anything that anyone has ever seen, because their job is to progress and improve as a fighter, progress and improve as an athlete, and meanwhile maintaining and or losing weight.
Yeah.
Okay. Football players, right? Our whole thing was we got bigger and stronger, and if we gain weight in the process, okay. Most of the time the goal was to gain weight. A fighter's like, okay, well, I need to stay just as strong, just as fast, but I need to shed 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And people die every year from MMA training camps.
Yeah.
They sit in the hot tub.
Let alone the fight.
Yeah, exactly. They sit and sweat, and they try to cut weight. Go watch a fighter at a weigh-in. He is depleted completely. And so the preparation, that's what leads to the anguish of a fighter, is they prepped specifically for a single opponent for months. Again, a big difference from any other sport.
Yeah.
Any other sport, they have a schedule. They got to prep. It's a weekly thing. It's sometimes 2-3 games in a week. It's way different than I am dedicating the next 4 months of my life to beat one person.
That's wild. It's
So
wild.
I have the utmost amount of respect for fighters. They are incredible athletes.
Yeah, just getting there is impressive.
Exactly, for sure.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you played football at a high level, college football, which is impressive. Did you have a background in martial arts, or do you have a background? Do you currently train?
So my first sport I ever did was martial arts. I did it actually for about 6 years. And my old training buddy actually now is getting ready for the Olympics. Shout out Cameron Madani. Good luck coming up soon.
Yeah, good luck.
So I always had a background with it. And I trained at a pretty high level. Granted, I was a youth, so it's different, but I still experienced it. And so even though I got away from that and transitioned into more team-based sports, I got big and I got strong and everything kind of changed with myself, I still always maintain that love for it and that respect for it, for sure.
So how'd you decide to pursue it? Like, what was the moment where you're like, I could do this?
You mean when I was a kid?
No, more announcing in general. Yeah.
So I originally had the goal to give it a shot.
Okay.
And to see if it was something that I could do on the side, kind of a side hustle to make a little extra cash. But then it changed. And the first gig I ever did, full-time announcing, I killed it. Truthfully killed it. And I was getting progressively better. I made one mistake. It was in the main event. It sucked. I was getting intense on a name, and I stumbled over a name. I hate making mistakes. I'm a perfectionist. I try to eliminate them all. I'm pretty sure I've gotten it down to where I don't make any mistakes. But still, I did well. And I was doing progressively well every event. And I was getting more and more opportunities to announce and that sort of thing. And then people would come up to me afterwards, like, you're good, like really good. I mean, I was getting told that from judges and officials that have been doing this in combat sports for 20, 30 years. I was getting told this from people that were lifelong fans. I was taking pictures with kids,
Votes of confidence from the people that truly know and matter.
Exactly. And so when I started hearing that, I was like, I might want to try to brand this, again, monetize your skills, monetize what you're good at. So made a social media. Follow me at Big Mo on the mic, all separated with periods. And so I started branding it a little bit, started to push some stuff out, and I started to use some of my paychecks on buying new suits and that kind of stuff. And I started to build this kind of persona around it, and I love it. I think it is so much fun. And so
it became a passion.
Yeah, it's become a fun thing for me to do. Now, do I know if I'm going to do it forever? Who knows? I'm taking every event as it goes, and I'll take any type of opportunity that's out there.
How often do you do it?
Once or twice a month, typically. Usually it's probably one Sparta event, one Airtight event.
So I guess what does success for an announcer look like? Like, what is the market for announcers? How do you separate yourself?
That's a good question. I would look at it as making your way to the biggest promotions.
Okay.
It's kind of like really anything else in media, and anything else in the entertainment side of anything is, you want to start somewhere, and if you can progress enough and be good enough to reach the following and the progressive echelons of whatever you do, that's the goal. So why I look at my goal as announcing is I want to be in the middle of the octagon in Madison Square Garden announcing a fight. Cool. And so that is something that I work towards with this every time I announce.
So skill development and market development. I mean, essentially working on your marketing of yourself while also building your skills.
Exactly. And it's networking. It's getting in touch with people that are in the fight game and have connections here and there, and being good with the fighters, man, because the fighters are the people that are obviously the ones that make everything go. And so I'm cool with the fighters. I'm respectful to them. When they have a request on something to be thrown into their announcement, I'll do it, And so it's kind of like just being as good of applying professional networking skills to everything that you do. And so I apply it to this announcing that I do as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long has this journey been? I mean, like, when did you start?
4 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago.
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Started about 4 or 5 months ago.
But, I mean, you look at your social media, it looks like you're
I'm
practiced. That's pretty cool, man.
And
That's
so, good. I did commentary with half announcing, and then announcing ever since.
So what makes you decide to go to announcing versus commentary?
Well, that's the production's choice. When I got on with Sparta, I told Jeff will do whatever you want me to do.
And they're like, this guy's an announcer.
Yeah, he eventually made me the announcer. So
that's cool.
That's what I want to do now. And so 4 or 5 months.
So do you practice outside of it? Like, is this, I know obviously the week of, you have your card, you're doing the general structure and outline, but I mean, is this something that you just find yourself, like, a fighter might be shadow boxing in their living room. Is this something where you just start announcing, like, dinner coming to the table type thing?
No, I mean, I've never, so, I mean, I'll be at parties and someone will want me to do it as like a party trick, but no, I mean, when I do, all right, you caught me. Sometimes I do play a game where when I see something, I'll announce it.
Yeah.
And so I'll put on my announcer voice and I'll get ready this car is approaching the red light, and so,
cool.
It's a fun thing to keep me quick and keep,
right.
learn how to flow certain phrases and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I play games with myself for sure.
I love it. And you said that you like to follow these other announcers. Like, are there...
Oh, I study it.
So are there people that tell you how to do it? Like, are there announcers, like some people in Muay Thai, for instance, are on social media and they're more open to showing you how they do things, whereas other fighters they fight. Are there announcers that kind of help future announcers?
I follow a lot of fighters, or I follow a lot of announcers on social media just to watch how they do it.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's like scouting, And so if an announcer does this a certain way that I kind of like, I'm like, all right, I can take this and maybe twist it here and there. And I also watch this to see what my competition is doing. I want to know how I stack up. And obviously I'm confident, almost cocky on my own, right?
Sure.
To where I'm like, I'm better than this guy. I could do that. And so, but yeah, no, I follow them to see kind of what they're doing, how they do it. And, ultimately what dictates what's right is crowd reaction. So when I started, I did a lot of research on all these announcers and all these sports, and I would watch a full fight from start to finish, full announcement to full how they announced the winner. And I would listen. I didn't listen to what they said. I listened to how the audience reacted to it. So basically, if, for those of you that work in audio, right, you can see audio spikes. And so what I would do is I would basically look for that, and I would kind of try to gather that in my own mind, say, okay, this spiked here. What did he say? How did he say it? Did he hold a vowel longer? And so that's ultimately how I kind of built what I do, and that's how I built my opening catchphrase and my closing catchphrase and that kind of stuff. And so,
is it still evolving? Like, is this a constant process that's evolved? Like the way you say something, the catchphrases. So like event to event, it could theoretically be different.
The catchphrase that I've tried to kind of brand on my own, I've kept the constant.
Cool.
I think every announcer has their one thing. Bruce Buffer is "It's time." Michael Buffer is "Let's get ready to rumble." So I got my own, and so, but no, I open an event and close the event the same way.
It's the
time.
Stuff in between that you kind of gauge and feel reactions on and make small changes.
Exactly, for sure. And it's and so much of it is just on the fly. When I announce the fighters, right, and I go from Denver, Colorado, representing so-and-so gym, and that gym has a huge following at the fight, they'll cheer their ass off. So usually I'd go boom, 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 where they're from, gym, who they are. If there's a big crowd and they go nuts for one thing, I'll wait a second. From Denver, Colorado, representing pound for pound fitness.
So your timing evolves every time,
the timing changes also. And so, it's a lot more goes into it than people I recognize.
Oh no, I believe it. I honestly, when I watch those guys, I'm thinking like, how are they remembering all this? How are they not messing up? It's a lot. It's definitely a lot.
So back to the research thing. I learned about the cars because Bruce Buffer on his Instagram put up an auction picture where his fight cards are being auctioned off. And I was like, let's see how he does it. Zoom in, okay, and then I literally just built my cards off of how he does his. So.
That's cool. I love the research. I mean, I like everything about your perspective. I mean, not only how you see the production side, and I agree with you that, promotion of the fight is very important, and
Yeah.
very important if you want those fighters to do well, and you want the industry to do well, and, you want success for everybody. A high tide raises all boats.
Right.
So I think promotion's incredibly important. But, I mean, when you're in your career and you're deciding, like, this is the avenue that I want to go down, I'm at least want to dabble in it and see if this is something I'm willing to dive into.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first step? I mean, I guess what came first? Was it the desire to try it out, or was it you meeting Jeff? I mean, when was the step that you said, this is something I'm going to pursue, and then what did you do?
So how it kind of came about was months prior, someone had told me that I had a good voice for commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, it goes even further than that. So I used to go to the women's volleyball games at the University of Northern Colorado, go Bears. And I did this prank, or not a prank, but me and my buddies Zach and Joe specifically, and also Keenan and a few of the other guys, we used to go and we used to talk trash.
Yeah.
To the opposing volleyball team. It was fun, and we would talk trash at all the events, but it was a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And the fans loved it too, because that's being a fan.
Something to watch.
Yeah, and everyone tries to shut down trash talking. No, we need that in all sports. And
Agreed.
so, but for one of them, we did a fake ESPN booth.
Cool.
And so we
That's a good idea.
We had the headsets and all that stuff. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and we were playing Montana, and we've been chirping Montana for years, and so they know us, And so we did that, and we did like a fake halftime report, or after the third period, whenever volleyball takes an intermission, and I did this like BS analysis of the game, and I was kind of sitting there like, actually sounds all right. And then someone, I guess, had seen me do that, and they said, you have a voice for commentary. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then a couple months later, I got in touch with Jeff, and so I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. And went down and called the event. It went well. And then, like I said, it progressed into...
Wow. So when you were speaking with Jeff, at that point, had you already kind of thought, this is something I would be interested in?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I had already thought that I'd be interested in doing some sort of commentary. I never knew it was going to be fighting. And then I got in touch with Jeff, and... it fit well. And, I kind of, I got almost burnt out with sports in the sense that I've been doing them for so long, played them, watched them every day, and now as I analyzed film every day, I kind of got worn out from it. But fighting, not the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, like I've said before, it's not the same thing. And so that was a cool way to bridge the gap, almost, sort of thing.
Cool.
But,
No, I agree. I mean, I'm with you. I was the kid that watched, Sports Center 24/7 and could tell you everything about every player and every sport. And then, I don't know, I went to college and I was just like, man, why do I have all this knowledge in my head about all these sports that I'm not even playing anymore?
Exactly.
But fighting is different. There's something else there. I don't know if it's the primalness or whatever it is, but God, I love it.
It's an energy that it's can't be matched.
Yeah.
So
before I let you go, I wanted to hear you mentioned your goal right now.
Mm-hmm.
The preeminent goal would be, one day be in Madison Square Garden.
Oh, yeah.
Announce for the UFC or Glory, some big promotion. What was it when you first started out? I mean, was that always the goal, or when you first started out, was it, let's just get something on my plate?
Whenever I pursue anything, and I'm someone that I've pursued a lot of stuff in my life, because I want to do a lot of different things. I never want to be one-dimensional in anything that I do. Whenever I do something, I jump to, this is where I want to end up. And I don't know how the path is going to get me there, but this is where I'm going to end up, and this is where I'm at right now. How I get there, I don't know, but I know A and B. And so, from my very first time doing it, I said, let's see how good I can do at this, and let's see if I can scale this up to that goal, wherever that may be. So.
I talk about this in my other podcast, the Seek Financial Freedom, because it's more professional oriented, and a lot of people set these goals, but I honestly think that is one of the hardest things for people to do. Recognize truly what they want and what they're willing to go after. Once you figure it out, you just Google it.
Well, and exactly. But, I believe heavily in affirmation and looking
self-fulfilling prophecy type things.
I believe heavily in that. And so when I'm it's like when I drive my car to work, I'm imagining that I'm not driving my car, I'm driving some supercar, and I'm living in some extravagant place, and I'm doing something huge.
Gotta visualize it.
I'm huge into visualization, and I was into visualization when I was playing football, and and luckily my team was also, and so, so when I announce or when I'm practicing, I don't think about I'm announcing at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds. I announce and I think about I'm announcing on the biggest stage possible. And I visualize that all the time in anything that I do, not just announcing. And so that goal setting and that working towards something and grinding and affirming it, that is all 100% real. And that is something that I take a ton of pride in everything that I do, including announcing.
Yeah.
So
I love it, man. I love your perspective. I love the angle that you have as the fourth man in the ring. I think, dude, you're crushing it, man. I think your social media presence big. You can follow him at Big Mo on the mic.
Big Mo on the mic, all separated with periods.
Cool.
So big.mo.on.the-mic. And so
I'm excited to see your journey from here, man.
Hey, I really appreciate coming on, and
thank you.
I'd love to help you in any way that I can.
Absolutely.
So I think an appropriate way to close this might be with me announcing the Pride Fighting business.
Absolutely.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Prize Fighting business. I am joined in the audio booth by Daniel, the host, and I'm Big Mo on the mic, and I've had a great time. And
awesome.
Y'all have a good night.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Improvise on the spot.
That's beautiful.
So.
And check us out online, prizefightingbusiness.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram at PrizeFightBiz. And don't forget to like us on Facebook.
Awesome, guys.
Thanks a lot.